Here's what nobody tells you about hitting $10,000 in savings. The first thing that changes isn't your bank account, it's your nervous system. And that shift, it unlocks opportunities most people never even knew existed. But here's where it gets weird. Most people who hit this milestone actually screw it up within 6 months. And I'm going to show you exactly why that happens and how to make sure you're not one of them. My name is Dobers and I love everything finance. Look, I'm not here to sell you some bullshit about how $10,000 makes you rich or sets you up for life. It doesn't. But what it does do is fundamentally change your relationship with money, risk, and opportunity in ways that most financial advice completely glosses over. In the next few minutes, I'm breaking down the actual psychological and practical shifts that happen when you cross this threshold, the specific doors that open up, and the strategic moves you can make that most people miss because they're too busy celebrating, or worse, getting comfortable. This isn't theory. These are the real tangible changes backed by behavioral economics and financial data. So let's get into it. When you have $10,000 sitting in your account, your brain stops operating in constant survival mode. That low-level anxiety about car repairs, medical bills, or getting fired, it doesn't disappear completely, but it drops significantly. Studies on financial stress show that having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved reduces anxiety-related health issues and improves decision-making. And here's the kicker. Better decision-making leads to better financial outcomes. It's a compound effect. But this is where most people fuck it up. They hit $10,000 and immediately feel safe, so they stop saving. They loosen up their budget, they start lifestyle creeping because they finally feel like they can breathe. And within months, they're back under 5K, wondering what happened. Recognize this feeling for what it is. Not the finish line, but the starting line. This is where the game actually begins. Because here's what happens next that separates people who build wealth from people who just tread water forever. Once you have that emergency fund locked in, you unlock something most people never experience, the ability to take calculated risks. And that's where everything changes. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every decision is a survival decision. You can't negotiate your salary aggressively because you can't risk losing your job. You can't start a side business because you can't afford the setup costs or the time investment. You can't make career moves that might pay off long term because you need money now. But 10K, that's runway. That's enough to quit a toxic job and have a month or two to find something better. That's enough to invest in skills, courses, or certifications that increase your earning potential. That's enough to start testing business ideas without betting your rent money. Let me be clear. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. I'm saying you now have options. And options are the most valuable currency in building wealth. Here's what smart people do at this stage. First, they keep the $10,000 completely separate and untouchable. This is your emergency fund, not your I want to buy something fund, not your opportunity fund. This money exists to protect you from catastrophe, period. Second, they start building a second bucket, call it your opportunity fund or investment fund or whatever. This is money you're saving beyond your emergency fund, specifically designed to take advantage of opportunities or build wealth. Third, they increase their income, and this is critical. Most people try to save their way to wealth, but there's a ceiling on how much you can cut expenses. But there's no ceiling on how much you can earn. With the security of $10,000 behind you, this is the time to get aggressive about raises, promotions, side income, or career transitions, because now you can actually take the risks required to level up. And look, if you've hit $10,000 in savings, especially if you started from zero or from debt, that's genuinely impressive. Most people never get here. According to the Federal Reserve, nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency with cash. You're in rare company, but don't let that validation make you complacent. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. $10,000 feels like a lot when you have nothing, but in the scope of building actual financial security, it's just the foundation. So, what's next? This is where the real divergence happens between people who stay middle class and people who build wealth. Once you have your emergency fund, every additional dollar needs to be working for you, not just sitting there. Here's what that actually looks like. If your employer offers a 401k match and you're not maxing that out, you're literally leaving free money on the table. That match is an instant 50% to 100% return on your investment. Show me another investment that does that with zero risk. Beyond the match, you want to be contributing to a Roth IRA if you're eligible. For 2026, that's $7,500 a year if you're under 50. That's $625 a month. Why does this matter? Because compound interest is the closest thing to magic in finance. $7,500 a year from age 25 to 65, with average returns of 10%, turns into over $3.6 million. Starting matters, and now you can start to if you haven't already. You don't need to pick stocks. You don't need to be a financial genius. Low-cost index funds that track the S&P 500 or total market funds give you instant diversification across hundreds or thousands of companies. The people who win aren't the ones timing the market. They're the ones who start early and stay consistent. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time. Peace out.